So let's talk about how to stand firm in truth and love. This is really a guide for anyone who's feeling a little shaken by all the chaos in the world. And it all starts by figuring out what forces are trying to throw us off balance in the first place.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You look around and just get this feeling that something is off. Well, there's actually a name for that feeling, the mystery of lawlessness. Now, I know that sounds pretty intense, but it's really just talking about that constant undercurrent of confusion and deception that can make us feel so unsteady.
So, what is this thing? Just think of it like a background noise that's always on, trying to pull us away from anything that feels solid and true. But here's the good news. There is a clear strategy for navigating it, and it starts with a lesson from a place you might not expect, the U.S. Secret Service. Okay, so our first big idea is all about spotting a fake, because if you want to stand firm against deception, you absolutely have to be an expert in what's real. And there's this fascinating real-world story that just brings this to life. So get this. There's a bank in Atlanta, and it gets flooded with counterfeit $100 bills. But these aren't your typical cheap knockoffs. Oh no. These were perfect. I mean, the same ink, the same texture, the same feel. It was a perfect example of that mystery of lawlessness at work, right? Sowing total confusion where there should be certainty. Even the most seasoned bank tellers were getting fooled. So, the bank calls in an expert from the Secret Service. One of the tellers asks a super logical question. How much time do you spend studying all the different kinds of fakes out there? And the agent's answer? Well, it's the key to everything.
Just think about how brilliant that is. They don't waste their energy trying to memorize every possible forgery. Instead, they pour all their time into knowing the genuine article, inside and out. Every fiber, every watermark, every tiny detail. Because when you're an expert in the real thing, the fake just feels wrong. You don't even have to think about it.
And that's the crucial point right there. The best defense against deception isn't to study the lie. It's to immerse yourself in the truth. You gotta know it, love it, and build your life on it so completely that anything else is instantly recognizable for what it is, a cheap imitation. But knowing the truth, that's only the first step. You also have to trust in something or someone who is totally faithful. Let's dive into another powerful story that shows exactly what this looks like. Okay, so picture a young girl at a community pool. She's climbed all the way up to the high dive, walked right out to the edge, and she just freezes. She's completely terrified. She keeps looking down at her dad in the water below, just shaking her head. She just can't make herself jump. Now, her dad, he doesn't yell at her to be brave. He doesn't get impatient at all. He just calls out with this simple, steady promise. Sweetheart, I know you're scared, but I'm right here. I'm not moving. I will catch you. And after another moment, she jumps. Later on, someone asked her about it, and what she said was so profound. She said, I didn't jump because I was brave. I jumped because Daddy was faithful. You see, her courage wasn't something she found inside herself. It was found in how much she trusted her father. And that really gets to the core of how we're meant to endure confusing times. The source for this whole discussion, a letter from the Apostle Paul, actually highlights this very specific prayer, for our hearts to be directed into God's love and Christ's perseverance. In other words, our strength doesn't come from us trying to be brave on our own, but from leaning on a faithfulness that is so much stronger than our fear. Okay, so we've got our internal foundation down, know the truth, and trust in what's faithful. But how does that change the way we interact with the world around us, especially with people who seem to be wandering off course?
Well, let's look at one more story here. A farmer wakes up after a huge storm, and he finds that a whole section of the fence between his property and his neighbors is completely knocked down. And now his neighbor's cattle are all over his land, just making a huge mess. So a friend comes over and tells him, hey, you should go chew that neighbor out, make him fix his own problem. But the farmer, he has a totally different take on it. He says, why would I yell at someone when I can help them? Sure, these are his cattle, but this is our fence. He didn't see it as a confrontation. He saw it as a shared problem that they could solve together. This slide just breaks down the farmer's wisdom perfectly. He had the truth on his side, right? It was technically his neighbor's responsibility, but he chose to approach it with love. Because as you can see here, truth without love, well, it just becomes cruelty. It's just pointing fingers and blaming people. But on the flip side, love without truth is just empty. It's avoiding the problem instead of actually fixing it. We have to have both. And this is the key for how we treat each other. The goal is never to win an argument or to shame somebody. The goal is always restoration, to help mend the fence, to bring things back into order, and, believe it or not, to actually deepen the relationship. So, how do we pull all of this together? Knowing the truth, trusting in what's faithful, and acting with love? How do we actually put all of that into practice? Well, it all comes together in one final, really powerful metaphor. I want you to think about a lighthouse keeper. Their job is pretty simple. Keep the flame burning. Every single night, through storms, through thick fog, through darkness, that light has to stay on. And why? Because out there on that chaotic sea, there are people depending on a light they might not even be able to see yet. They are navigating toward a hope that they trust is there. And that's really our mission, to be lighthouse keepers. We're called to keep 4 flames burning brightly, no matter what's going on around us. The flame of truth, so we can spot the counterfeit. The flame of love, so we can mend the fence. The flame of perseverance, so we can make the jump. And finally, the flame of hope, for ourselves and for everyone else navigating the storm. So when you boil it all down, the message is simple, but it's incredibly profound. Stand firm. Hold on tight to what you know is true and good. Be that steady light when the world feels dark and the noise of all the confusion just feels deafening. So the last question here isn't really a summary, it's more of a challenge to every single one of us. In your life, in your community, in a world that desperately needs it, what light will you keep burning?